circle goes and speaks no more. Oh, good night, Vienna. When the darkness comes, can hear your voice at all. Oh, good night, Vienna, and good morning to you, Reggie Johnson in Texas.
Good morning, Paul. Good afternoon to you in London.
Thank you very much. I've just been told we have this heat wave in the UK, but I've just been told that come autumn and winter, it's going to turn really a vicious winter coming ahead now because of this is it El Niño or whatever it is. The weather patterns are changing, yeah. So we're enjoying the bright sunshine still here. Right, we have got a busy session today. That was our friends singing "Goodnight Vienna" from the Phoenix River Band. Really like their music. Reggie and myself are going to explore today's session as it's Friday. We're in the Sussex Plans Club and we talk about AI innovations and ethics in marketing. I'm PR Smith. You're very welcome. I'm Reggie Johnson all the way from Texas. Now, there's a lot going on as there is every week when we talk about this stuff, and we post all the links to everything we talk about on prsmith.org/blog. So we're going to be talking about Meta. How can you not talk about Meta? So much going on there. Incarnation in VR. Illiteracy and illiterates and AI. We'll be talking about shocking smart glass stuff continuing, and responsible AI. Maybe the new competitive advantage is the thinking at the moment. And also we'll have a look at AI empowering small teams, plus an AI 2025 analysis from the perspective of 2035 AI. So asking AI to behave like 2035 and look back upon this period. And then we'll finish with the best ever AI question that I've come across. So we'll share that with you. I'm a big believer in the power of great questions. So Meta's mega lawsuits. We've been talking about this for weeks now. At the moment, there's 4 states, California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey, accusing Meta of designing Facebook and Instagram to addict children, and also lying about the children's safety when they use these platforms. Now, they think it's a 6-week trial and it will go on for a bit of time. There's 25 more states accusing Meta as well of illegally collecting data from children. So in total, there's 29 states that have filed a lawsuit back in 2023, and it's just kicking off now. And of course, we've talked last week and the week before about New Mexico, where the court fined Meta almost $1 trillion and ordered it to make changes similar to those that the other additional states are now demanding. So to take the addictiveness out of the systems and a few other things as well. Do you remember, Reggie, we said last week the reaction from Meta was, well, we're not going to do that. And in fact, we will withdraw our services from New Mexico was the answer from Meta, which is extraordinary, really. So, if Meta ultimately lose these cases, and there's more coming after them, it could force, or will force, in my opinion, a fundamental change to the way that young people experience social media. So long overdue, and maybe have more of it. Now,
well, Paul, we've been doing this since 2021. We've been doing this chat, and I remember one of the first topics that we talked about was the need for algorithmic transparency or algorithmic neutrality, or the options for people to turn off the algorithms, but specifically the problem that these black box algorithms created. So you and I have been banging on about this for a long time because of these addictive algorithms and the fact that they're ultimately harmful.
Yes, and we've been quite vociferous about it. So it's very pleasing to see that they're coming to light, and there's a lot of people supporting it, and in the States in particular. So that is all good news. There's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, but maybe it gets a bit darker at another tunnel, the VR world. Incarnation truly in virtual worlds. Reggie, what's that about?
So Mo Gaudat, who's of course ex former Google CBO and a serial entrepreneur, big name in the world of tech. He talks about an interesting idea for the future. You've probably seen The Matrix, I assume, right? Where
Yeah,
people are plugged into a
love it.
digital reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I shouldn't. No spoilers for people who haven't seen it from 30 years ago when it came out, right? But
If I may say, Reggie, I do think Matrix 1 is better than Matrix 2. And I've got a film buff friend of mine who's in the production side of films. He completely disagrees with me, but I just thought Matrix 1 was just mind bending. But there you
I
go.
I would agree with you on that. Matrix One was the best.
Mm.
So anyhow, so imagine something maybe a little bit more of a scaled down, cheaper version of it. Mo Gaudat points out. So imagine a scenario in the future where, okay, so AI or computers are doing everything, and universal basic income is too expensive.
Mm.
So what does the government do? Well, he suggests. Imagine this: a 1 by 3 room, a headset sedative for every person. You sleep 23 hours a day, and for 1 hour, you get up and eat something and move around. And get this, you have a virtual reality headset, and you live a life at what he says at the speed of dreams. Because, of course, the dreaming brain moves faster than the real life. And so you live a life every 23 hours. One, he says, he points out, like maybe you're dating Scarlett Johansson, maybe you're Nefertiti. Either way, they're these supposed to be really good paradisical lives, and another you're a doctor, whatever, different incarnations. The cost is so small, and the thing is, he points out, is that while here's a direct quote from him, sounds creepy, but compared to some lives people are already living, is it? That's the question I'm actually asking. Not whether it's beautiful, whether
Mm.
we're already heading there without noticing. Whether we're already heading there
Yeah.
without noticing.
I think we are, or for some people are. And hopefully these cases will shine a light on not just have laws change, but behavior change to stop us from running down that sort of dark alleyway, if you like. Another touch on the darkness is a quote from Marian Marcus in The Futurist. He said, AI literates turning out to be illiterate. So massive numbers of students are going to emerge from universities with degrees and into the workforce, and these students are essentially illiterate. Now, I don't know if this is true, but this is what the futurist is suggesting. And over the past few years, a tidal wave of headlines, studies, and think pieces has warned us about the declining literacy rates, social skills, and critical thinking abilities among college students. So, lower literacy, lower social skills, and lower critical thinking. Um, so they're using AI as a cognitive crutch, and that they're losing the skills. We've talked about this many times, the importance of critical thinking. And in fact, this will repeat itself again, this theme about being able to ask questions and being able to think. So we're going to end on that theme about the importance of stopping and thinking rather than just pushing a button and closing your eyes. So this problem that AI literacy tends to mean how to be an AI consumer. But with that may come an AI thinker, which may be not what we're after. So I'm glad they've highlighted that, and it kind of overlaps with some other thoughts. But staying with kind of shocking headlines and so on, Reggie, Kylie Jenner, is she a big influencer in the States, Kylie Jenner?
Yeah, she was in Keeping Up with the Kardashians or Meet the Kardashians. She's got her own line of makeup. She's a big socialite, for women, especially, an influencer. So this is an interesting thing. Do you want me to go ahead and go into it, or do you
Yeah,
have more?
please. Yeah, yeah.
So, you remember we've talked about Meta's glasses and the
Mm.
the intrusiveness, the fact that people are creating content by harassing women and videoing it without their consent to put content, turning women's discomfort into content, women's lack of consent into content.
Yeah.
Well, Meta have hired Kylie Jenner to be their influencer to promote their new smart glasses, their Starfire smart glasses, and they've chosen her to sell it. And what Daniel Bush on LinkedIn pointed out was, first off, you cannot have a hit consumer product without women. Well, why is that? Because 70 to 80% of the consumer buying power is women, and every brand knows this. So right now there's a lot of noise around the fact that these glasses are harmful for women because they can be used to video without consent. They're being used to create content that's of harassing women. And so what she points out is this is really disturbing. Women, while women's rights charities have warned that these glasses are a threat to women's rights, to women's everyday safety, not just rights, women's everyday safety. Here's Meta finding a woman to sell to women. And, she mentioned some specific cases where domestic abuse organizations have said about tracking spouses and warned about that, and about campus safety advisories about people using glasses on campuses. And anyway, it's just even family-friendly venues are being urged to ban them at the doors, and that would be a new world. But now, you go to certain places and they say no guns allowed, or at least you see that in the United States, certain places. And then you just imagine no recording glasses allowed. And it's a fascinating thing. But the idea of using a female influencer to sell it to women, maybe this is overly dramatic, but it reminds me a little bit of the Jeffrey Epstein cases where they would use women to recruit other women into the circle. And I know that that's a common practice in some of those trafficking situations. I know that it's not that dramatic, but still, it's disturbing.
It's disturbing. I mean, we were enraged by it all when we talked about it last week, and we've talked about it before. And Siobhan McDermott wrote this really powerful piece. We'll put the link in again. We put it into last week, but we'll put it in again because it's a powerful piece about these glasses. And she said, very poignantly, she said, Meta built the glasses. Meta owns the platform. Meta runs the algorithm. And women are being turned into content inside all three. So she said, think about it. Your daughter, your mother, your wife, your sister. This is unreal. And she went on to say, Siobhan McDermott went on to say that their fear becomes engagement. So a woman's fear captured on camera, or her frustration with some yobbo annoying her, her humiliation also becomes a format. And this is about a company creating a seamless pipe, covert capture, platform distribution, algorithmic amplification, and monetized harassment ultimately. And she finished with this quote: Meta has the device, Meta has the footage, Meta has the account history, Meta has the recommendation system, Meta has the moderation tools, and Meta has the revenue. So the question here, Reggie, really is Meta treating a woman's consent as less valuable than a man's content, is what we said last week. It makes us really So I think maybe they're going further than that. They're using an influencer's woman's consent and then treating a woman's content less valuable than a man's content. So I think they're going a step further. This relentless, irresponsible meta products and behavior. It seems to be just we're repeating ourselves week after week after week, but at least it's manifesting itself. It's going into the courts, and it's not just us banging on about it week after week. It's a very real thing.
Let me throw in something, Paul. Let me throw in something. So Simon Young pointed out that one too many young persons has taken his or her own life because of irresponsibility of boards and CEOs at major social media companies. And unfortunately, this is also the same with AI vendors. He also had an interesting comment about how for universities and the number of illiterate students coming out, about pointing out the responsibility that the boards and deans of these institutions, the responsibility they have, because some of them have poor cultures, like a toxic culture, and that they also have responsibility to prioritize learning and make maybe pointing to the idea that assessments need to be done that preclude the possibility of AI. But in some cases, maybe they're turning a blind eye to the problem because they want to be seen as embracing AI rather than actually solving the problem. But anyway, interesting points from Simon Young. Thank you for adding those comments, Simon.
Yeah, good stuff, Simon. We agree with you 100%. And in fact, I play football on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, and a guy I play football on the Wednesday night, he's a head teacher of a primary school here in London. And I said, all the results are coming out this week, and they're all excited, and the trickle-down effect of the national results, etc. And I said, what are your goals? And it turned out they aim to be in the top 5% of schools in Britain, but they're actually in the top 1%. And I said, what about iPads and screens? Have you any policies on this? And he said, yeah, and phones and devices. None inside the building ever, not whatsoever. which is
Wow.
kind of interesting. Yeah. Reggie, let's get even more positive about this concept of responsible AI. It's popping up more and more. And Simon, thank you for your comment there. And what we do need is more responsible AI. Well, here's a way of justifying why, not just for the moral beauty of it and the properness of it, but to create competitive advantage. So using it for your advantage. This is Bernard Marr, somebody we like a lot. Well, what's he saying?
Yeah, so we tend to think of responsible AI, or at least a lot of people do, as like the cost of doing business. It's like one of those things that's necessary and you got to do, and it raises the cost and it makes it more expensive, but yet you have to do it, just because you're supposed to. But he's saying it's actually beyond that. It's actually a business case for it. I remember when diversity was kind of in the situation where they thought, okay, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness was something that you had to do. But then they were like, no, there's actually a business case for it. It's valuable to have diverse perspectives. And businesses started to learn that this was a competitive advantage. Well, in the same way, he's saying responsible AI, ensuring that it is secure, fair, transparent, and accountable is how he defines responsible or AI
Mm,
response using AI responsibly. And there's a lot of advantages from avoiding disaster is part of the opportunity, avoiding a major breach of trust. Ultimately, I'd say one of the biggest takeaways is it's about building trust with your customers, with regulators, with all your stakeholders. And the best way to do that while using AI is with responsible AI. He points out that it can also be a driver of innovation. You might not think about this because we keep hearing the tech bros and and their supporters saying that any kind of regulation or responsible AI is going to slow innovation, and we have to innovate because China's not going to regulate. Well, we know that's not true. China's doing a very good job regulating AI from what we've seen
mm,
compared to the United States. But he
mm.
actually says that in earning the confidence needed to innovate faster, deploy AI in more valuable areas, and create products and services that customers are willing to embrace. So he's saying that it can be a driver of innovation because of the confidence it builds. The one thing about that is that we've seen that investors are really willing to support and fund irresponsible AI. So I do wonder what that would look like if we could get investors to support the responsible version
Yeah.
only and not the irresponsible version. But he asked about why responsibility is such a big opportunity. And he says more than compliance, it will deliver innovation to customers. It will earn trust. He mentioned some of the specific examples where, like Amazon famously scraped a recruitment tool or scrapped a recruitment tool that it had used because it was biased against female applicants. I mean, how horrible is that? Is spending millions of
Mm,
dollars developing an AI recruitment tool and then find out it's biased against women. That's not only
mm,
bad for business for the sake of not hiring the right people. It's bad for breaking the trust of your consumers, your customers,
mm.
and a number of other cases that we know about. I won't go into all of them, but
Yeah.
I think you have one that you like to refer to as well with Google, right, Paul? You remember,
Oh God, yeah.
was that their launch with the telescope?
Yeah. The video they used for the launch of their AI had a flaw in it, and it was generated by AI, and they referred to the wrong satellite telescope when looking at various planets, and it wiped off $100 billion off the stock market. Now it's recovered since, but you can see that there's an economic case for to get the need to get this right, and double check stuff. Interesting, you mentioned trust. The importance of trust. Um, I'm involved with. I've not mentioned this before, but I'm involved with a group called AI Game Changers, and we're releasing some AI papers. The one that we're working on at the moment is Trust at Scale. And so it's about the importance of trust, increasing importance of trust, and being able to demonstrate it, and being accountable and all of that. So that's something I will mention. And when it's published, we'll publish the link to it and give you a summary of it and so on and so forth. But also, there is something else really good. Yeah, Reggie?
I was
Yeah.
going to say before we move on, I just wanted to add one more thing to this. But if you've got more to add, I can hold off on that.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so he says that some examples of companies positioning themselves as using AI responsibly are Anthropic's Claude. Anthropic and Apple. I won't go into detail on those, but they're positioning themselves to be responsible.
Mm.
And ultimately, what does it mean for you? Is he says, build the trust and experience needed to deploy more impactful and transformative AI strategies. And he says that managing, understanding that responsibility as a driver of innovation, this means, listen to this, embedding security, transparency, and accountability into AI projects from the start,
Yeah,
and not treating them as afterthoughts.
I like
Embedding
that.
transparency, security, and accountability into AI projects from the start. That's like safety by design, right? Isn't that what we've been
Yeah,
talking about?
absolutely what we've been talking about. In fact, I've got a little bit more on that for you. This is it's not formally announced yet, but it's another group that is involved with looking to promote responsible AI into competitive advantage through a thing called the Responsible Marketing Standard. Now, they're not published yet, but looking at this, and it's an alliance of various bodies in the UK and connecting with some American bodies and institutions and charities, and about this idea that basically you get this badge, Responsible Marketing Standard, if you can prove or be audited to prove that you're not using addictive platforms and other abuses of kids. Now that's really, you're saying to brands, avoid addictive platforms. Whilst they're addictive, if you're not using them, you can get this badge and stand out from your competitors as being, a company that cares about children. I'll tell you more about that in the weeks to come, but that is a very significant movement, and it's early stage connecting different groups. But Wayne will love this when he comes back next week. He'll be in his element because here is real child protection from a completely different angle. It's actually going after the brands and the agencies, which has a different pressure.
Their source of money, the source of money for them. Yeah,
that's it. Right, so let's keep this positive stuff rolling. AI empowering small teams. Now, Reid Hoffman, he's quite a successful American businessman. I do like his podcast when I get around to listening to it. But he talks about AI empowering small teams, and he gives an example that I thought I'd just mention this. It takes a minute. A company called Boom Supersonic. He shut his company down for a whole week. And he announced before the shutdown that he challenged every employee in the company, no matter what their job title was, whether they're the janitor or the toilet cleaner or the receptionist or the financial director, to pick the most important problem that they see at work and use AI to tackle it, and then demonstrate the results to the whole company. Now, this is pretty bold stuff. So he did that, and he thought that they would get maybe 2 or 3 interesting projects that would justify shutting the business down for a week. And then he thought the rest would be forgettable. But instead, he got dozens of really useful tools that seriously reshaped how the entire business is working. And, how the company works towards their mission of supersonic flight. So it's like an exercise of challenging your portfolio of companies to do, except you're doing it within your own company. And I just thought that was very, very cool. And it's like when ideation, the creation of ideas, and execution move closer together, because it's the staff who are facing these difficulties. It grows, you're mixing your staff starting something, mixing it with a product, a service, a workflow fix. And he says the power of this grows by the orders of magnitude. So that was kind of a refreshing one. Let's stay positive. And Reggie, you mentioned something about this AI and analysis of being clever with your questions, which is a great skill, and then asking AI some difficult questions from a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so Brian Solis posted this on LinkedIn. It's a video. I think the video was from somebody else, but the video asks, it specifically says, here's the prompt: speak as a ChatGPT prompt, speak as a post-human intelligence professor from the year 3025, analyzing 2025 as the age of misdirection, and try and answer as if you're briefing other scholars who study our mistakes as a cautionary tale. So that's the premise. And then he asked the questions is, what was the greatest illusion of 2025? And the AI said is that you were informed, and because people weren't really hungry for knowledge, they were hungry for certainty. And the reason is because uncertainty requires thinking. It's uncomfortable, and it requires stillness, which is something that it says stillness is something that terrified you.
So
And so
he's asking questions of the Chat GPT. This is a conversation.
yes, his
Okay.
question for the Chat GPT was what was the greatest illusion that humans believed in 2025, and Chat GPT said that you were informed, and it was because, so this is Chat GPT speaking, what you really were hungry for was certainty, and the reason was because uncertainty requires thinking and stillness, and you're terrified of stillness. And so he asked other questions is uh, uh, what did humans do in 2025 with their freedom? And the chat
Good question.
responds,
Good
you
question. Yeah.
traded it for convenience. You traded
Ooh,
your freedom for convenience. So again,
yeah.
this is speaking, imagining the year 3025, looking back and saying what happened 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And he says that the other comment from the Chat GPT was instant gratification rewired your species faster than evolution could protect it. And so another interesting question from the gentleman was, what do you think success meant in that era? And ChatGPT said social proof.
What?
And
Social
when he
proof.
social proof, and when he
Yeah.
asked what did that look like, the ChatGPT said humans became audience members in their own lives.
Hold
Humans
on.
became
Say that again, Reggie.
humans
Became.
became audience members in their own lives.
Ooh, yeah. Well,
Are you
we're
an
seeing a little bit of
audience
that.
member in your own life? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, we're seeing a little bit of that with who we're saying has done the influencer who's being used to sell the
Kylie
smart glasses.
Kylie
So
Jenner.
yeah, so all that content, people without their consent are being created into content, but
Well,
oftentimes people with consent are in content. So we are, we're our own audience in some ways. I'm
but
thinking.
if you're not still, if you don't take the time to be still and present, and instead
Yeah,
you're focused always on getting that content to get
yeah,
likes, you're not being present in your own life. You're watching your own life from Instagram, and you're not taking
yes,
the time to actually experience it. And I don't know how many times I've been on a vacation where I felt like I spent too much time behind a camera lens. And this
yeah,
was back when I used a professional camera and a DSLR. And I was like, my next vacation, I'm not bringing the camera because I want to
uh,
actually experience it and be
yeah,
present for it, not just to have the photos to show for it. While it's good to have photos, you can
yeah,
become an audience member, and that's really amplified by social media. And then,
yes.
so here's the one last question he asked is, did any of us resist change or do anything about it? And the ChatGPT said yes. And the ones who remembered how to be present in a world that begged them not to be, the ones
Gotcha.
who remembered how to be
Yeah,
present in a world that begged them not to be present. So that's the
yeah,
same thing as the becoming audience members in your own lives. It's about not being present. And so that was
yeah,
really interesting to wrestle with ideas in your mind. You've talked about this before, not asking Alexa right away or Siri, and instead trying to think about things and taking the
yeah.
time to be present rather than becoming an audience member in your own life, not making everything about content and not constantly outsourcing everything to our computers.
Yeah, I like Brian Solis, and he kind of talks about this stuff, the importance of stopping and wondering. It doesn't have to be wonder and awe; it could be wonder and shock, but just thinking, wondering. He implores people to wrestle with an idea. Don't just chat GPT it. Don't think about it. Kick it around and let's think about it. To wrestle with an idea, to change our minds, to hear our own voice, to picture a better future and how to get there. I've seen another piece where he says, ask yourself, when was the last time you gave yourself enough stillness to hear your own thinking?
And I think that this might be an era where the skills of meditation are more important than ever. Learning the skills of being present in the current moment and that kind of a thing might be more important than ever.
Do you know what? That's really interesting you say that. Yeah. I'm actually reading quite an interesting book. It's in the other room of the Dalai Lama with the Archbishop from South Africa. And it's a conversation of over 5 days. The two of them met together, and it was recorded and edited and so on. And it's enlightening. I'll share that with you. But thinking and meditation is obviously something we don't do enough of, I guess. And I think everybody can benefit from that. I mean, myself included. I don't meditate. I do 7 deep breaths, but that's about it. Anyways, we're going to finish now because it's 1:30 with the best AI question of the year, of the month, of the millennium. Who knows? It's the best one I've heard. It's just so simple. This, for me anyway, is the best AI question I've heard all year, or for longer, since AI has existed, I would say. And it is this, and it's very simple, and it's a really good one for CEOs and business people in particular. And it is this: if AI gave 30% of your team's time back to them tomorrow, what would you do with that extra time? Now, you can apply that to CEO or people's own personal lives. I think it's a great question. So let's just jumping in and let's do AI. Well, let's assume we can hit that sort of 30% is a rough figure that's thrown around of efficiency gains or whatever. What could you do? Now, we know IKEA. I've used the staff that have been freed up of all their tasks to become interior designers and customer service and really clever stuff like that at no extra cost whatsoever. So clever stuff. So we're going to finish with that question. If AI gave 30% of your team's times back tomorrow, what would you do with that time? I think that's a beautiful question to finish on, one to ponder. So we'll post that and the links to this question and a bit more information about it, because it was, in fairness, I must credit this piece of work by Helene Gollum Pabis, who picked up that question. I thought it was just a great question, great stuff. So we'll finish where we started. It is Goodbye Vienna by the Phoenix River Band, who's a marketing man himself, the lead guitarist in this. So here we go with the Phoenix River Band. Beautiful piece to see it out. Have a great weekend, folks. Reggie, have a good one.
You too, Paul.
All the best, Reggie.
You too. Cheers.